Hi, everybody. Welcome to TCCW Live. We are here today with Mr. Phil Escott and, of course, the one and only beautiful James. And we are going to get a little bit of an intro aspect into what, how, when, why Phil ended up here in the carnivore space. So welcome, Phil, and the floor is yours, my dear.
Thank you very much for having me on, Selina.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I've gone vegan now, so
Oh,
I don't know what I'm doing here really, because I decided I'd really like to be in the wheelchair that I was always told by the doctors I would be in at some point.
Good idea. Good idea.
So, I wouldn't want to make them wrong or anything. No, I'm messing. So, yeah, it's been a long, funny journey for me, because I used to write books and articles and things on plant-based eating and really studied diet and Ayurveda and all that kind of thing for decades, really, because I'm an old dude now. I'm 64 this year.
Oh, you're a baby. You're midlife.
Hope so. And so I got stuck in that whole sort of spirituality thing, really, with the transcendental meditation thing. And so you can't eat meat and get enlightened, and it's terribly evil. And, and then all the mainstream stuff of how it causes cancer and heart disease and all that nonsense. And so it was a big wake-up call to me when 2010, well, there was lots of warning signs, but in 2010, I just ended up with real crippling psoriatic arthritis, which is basically the same as rheumatoid, same as any autoimmunity. And autoimmunity doesn't actually exist, but we can come into that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was absolutely crippled, and I had to start really looking at things. So, from a vegetarian diet, I went even more vegetarian, which was vegan, and then sort of raw vegan and fruitarian, and all that did really.
You did that?
Yeah, I was insane, really. All that did really was lose me all my muscle and give me a load of brain fog and give me kidney stones from the spinach smoothies. So, and it didn't really do very much for the joints.
No.
So yeah, then I found this website. I think it was called beyondvegetarianism.com, and there were these couple of vegetarians, and they decided, no, this is ridiculous. Ancestrally, we really ate meat usually, and I thought they've absolutely got a point. All that study I'd done, all that time that I thought I was an expert, and all I really needed to do was look at a cave painting to see that there was one guy, one spear, one mammoth, no quinoa, yeah, none of that. And it was fairly obvious to me from that point on. But then for the next, that was probably 2011 or so, but for the next 4 years, I was keto. But I decided, obviously, that we needed a little bit of healthy veg with our meat. And then I never really liked veg anyway. It's a good sponge for butter, but without that, it's pretty revolting. And so I just noticed on the days that I didn't bother to make any roast veg in the oven to go with the meat, I felt a whole load better. And so I just quit, really. And then I started to notice that there were quite a few other people doing it, nowhere near as many as there are now. You had to hunt for them. But there was things like, Zero Carb Zen, websites like that. And I just felt way better. And so that's it. I haven't had any veg or anything since 2015. And everything reversed. I wrote a book called Arthritis, the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, which was probably 2014, I think, which I got rid of most of it. But now I'm so lazy. I just want to go in there and put a foreword in saying, look, all you need to do is to just eat fatty meat and nothing else. If you've got anything inflammatory, not even pork, chicken, dairy, or eggs, just absolute ruminant animal meat, very fatty, like my good friend Sophia Clements prescribes at Paleo Medicina, and the results they get are incredible. And since then, it's funny. I never thought that I would be this carnivore guy on YouTube and things. It's so weird, because I was sort of veggie and thinking that, that was the spiritual thing to do. And yeah, life takes a funny turn. So now I just work with clients who have autoimmunity and do consults and have a course out there. And, autoimmunity, the subtraction method. It's all about taking things away, isn't it? People go, oh, you're such a grifter. You've got a course and a book. you earn almost nothing, because all you're telling people is you don't need the very supplements that you would make money on if you sold them. It's like, you don't
Exactly.
need any of this crap. All you need to do is subtract things and, you know, not add in a load of stuff and panic. And it's like that old saying, isn't it? That if you're sitting on a nail, you don't take an aspirin to get rid of the pain. Get off the nail.
Oh, I thought that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, it's what we're told to do, isn't it?
It is. Like,
Exactly.
absolutely is.
So yeah,
I
now
know.
it's been real fun, because I've got to know a lot of the people in the carnivore space, and they're all so cool, like Anthony Chafee and Sophia Clements and Ken and Sean, and you know, a lot of them come and speak at the events, which I absolutely love doing, because it's all very well being online, and all these things that we do online are so useful for people, but the live events are brilliant, you know. And so we do one every year in Spain, and one in England as well, where there's also a lot of music. I'm very greedy and play with 2 bands at that one, because I'm a drummer.
My
And
husband's a drummer.
yeah, it's
I
been
knew I
it's
liked
been
you.
a weird, considering where I came from, but very rewarding.
So, curious question, and speaking on the specific fact that you are a musician and you play drums. Not that I have any bias to this as a wife of a drummer. Um,
Cool.
um, with your arthritis before, how inhibiting was it for you to play before you found carnivore and started eliminating all of the plant foods and carbs?
Well, I couldn't play at all for about a year. I had an incredible band from about 2006 till about 2010. Extraordinary, really creative, all sorts of projections and weird shit going on.
Nice.
And yeah, if you can find videos of that on YouTube, and
Oh, I
the
will
the,
be looking.
the big fat drummer with the 4-foot dreadlocks was me.
Nice. Nice.
So
So
yeah,
excited now.
yeah. So they fell out on my last experiment with veganism. But yeah, I couldn't play. So it was probably about 2012, 2013, really, before I got back into playing again. And, you know, every time I play now, I'm just so grateful that I can still do it, you know. And I'm in a
Yeah.
band which, you know, goes on about things that I can't really go on about here, because it'll get your channel blown up. But lots of nice tinfoil hattery stuff. And we headline these freedom festivals around England, and we did Canada last year. And sometimes I think, you know, I'm an old dude, and most guys, you know, who have never had arthritis are sort of out of the scene by my age, and I feel really incredibly grateful. And it's 90% of it is down to carnivore, really, that I'm still able to do it, which is wonderful.
I absolutely love the reality that you're putting into this whole perspective of the age aspect, because of the fact that it's like, okay, I'm going to be 42 this year. And that for me, I'm like, I still, and I don't know that this will ever change, I still think like 25-year-old me, just with wisdom, you know, like nothing about my joy and my fun and my playfulness has aged beyond that. I've gained wisdom as how to navigate and maneuver through life better, but that part doesn't stop. And I think a lot of people, because of the physical ailments that end up bombarding the body, they allow that part of their own psychosis to die as well, because they're in too much pain, and they're in, you know, they're suffering so much that they can't even allow themselves to experience the joy of life. And at 60 years old, as we know biologically, you have just peaked as a teenager. Just saying.
Well, that's the thing is, Selina, you managed to get to 25. I don't think I got past about 10. I think I am still that juvenile. sometimes I think, I'm a dad of, kids, kids of 34 and 17 and 10. And I think I've got sometimes they call me dad and a daddy or whatever. And I think I'm not responsible enough to have kids. I never really grew up. And I think that's part of it. You just have to, the musicians, they never really grow up, do they really? They're
I
always
don't think so.
very
No.
juvenile. It's like I just started another band, and it's just like herding cats, trying to get them into a rehearsal studio at the same time, or into a gig, or to reply to anything. You just have to get used to musicians, This the real OMT says here in the chat, Phil, you should grow your dreads back, bro. Well, I didn't have a haircut between 1979 and 2011. But I think I've had my time really with that. I think dreads down the back and baldy bits up the top is not a good look. I'm not going to risk that. You can get away with it if you're a yogi high up in the Himalayas, but no.
Yeah.
I think my dread days are over, sadly.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way even as a woman. Like, as I'm getting older, the, like, hair down to my knees concept is just not quite just doesn't quite.
I think it's brilliant if you have a full head of hair, which you do, and so I don't. So there's nothing I can do about that. I started to notice it when my daughter, who's now 17, and she was like 3 or whatever in 2011, and I had these big Congos down the back. She could swing on them, but then if she grabbed one at the front, started to hurt, and I thought something's going wrong here. So it was a bit thin. Had to come off, but it was definitely that last bout of veganism that got rid of them. And some people have managed to grow hair back to a certain extent on carnivore, but sadly not me. But pretty much everything else has sorted itself out, which is great.
There's just more room for the tinfoil hat.
That's
exactly.
Right.
I think the opposite, though. I mean, I think a lot of people in this space, we claim the tinfoil hat, but in reality, it's the other way around. I think the mainstream is wearing the tinfoil hat, in a sense.
Yeah, well, they say the difference between, a conspiracy theory and the truth is about 6 months.
Mm. Yeah,
so much is coming out at the moment, but I don't want to get your channel pulled.
I think that's accelerated over the last 5 years, because there's a lot of things that, again, going to be cautious, but there's a lot of things that started to come out, I would say 2022, more readily available, that I've like, man, I've known this since I was, 10 years old. Depends on who you know.
Yeah. So it's the best way. It's the best way to get your channel shadow banned, though. I spoke out about all this stuff in 2020 a lot early on, and I had 15,000 subscribers then, and I've got 15,000 subscribers now, which I think is absolutely impossible, really. With the content I put out, but I think a lot more people actually see it, because it's funny. I go to these festivals, and even if I'm not there speaking or anything, if I'm just playing drums, and I've had so many people come up and go, "Are you that guy on YouTube? I've been watching your stuff, and I've lost like 60 pounds. I've reversed my diabetes, or my joints have cleared up." And it's so rewarding. So it's really nice that even though it looks like you're not getting much engagement, if I want some engagement, want to up the consults and stuff, I always say to Anthony, "Can I pop on your channel?" Because he's got a huge reach, and he just released one the other day, and suddenly I'm flooded with all these messages. Everybody says, "Oh, I'd love to have a consult," or something like, "Oh, what about your events?" And I've seen you on Anthony Chaffee's channel. I'm like, my channel's useless.
Isn't it funny how that works out? I know when we had him on live, it was like I couldn't keep up with the commentary because there was so many people watching. I think we got up to like almost 200 viewers at one time, and I'm just sitting there going, how can like right now I'm monitoring 4 different screens. I'm like, there's no way. I couldn't keep up with anything. I was like, I'm sorry, it's a free-for-all in here now, guys.
Yeah.
There's no way.
He's such a cool guy, though, and he's so chilled, and he's so helpful, so generous with his time.
He is.
Very cool.
I think it's
Go ahead, James.
well, excuse me. I was going to say I do agree with you, Phil. Like what you said early on, is the community is it's very strong. You talked about the conference in Spain. I've attended some conferences. I know Selena, you and I, and Phil, you may also be joining at Meatstock USA
Are you?
in just over a
Yeah.
month.
No, I can't get to meet stuff, but yeah, have fun.
Yeah, but I love it. I mean, I shared this before, but when attending Hack Your Health for the second time this year and just interacting and engaging in the space, it is amazing to see how tightly knit the community is for, keto carnivore. It's awesome. So you can
Yeah.
be Anthony Chafee, for example, like you're saying, like one of the top tiered pillars in this community and still interact and still know by first name somebody like I'll point to myself, like who's very small but enthused in the carnivore space and wants humanity to find renewed vibrancy. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. When he comes to the Spain event, so he missed last year, but he was there the year before. He's coming this time, and it's just like a week, and it's only about 60 people, like about 35 rooms, and it's just so kind of intimate, and you get to know everybody. And yeah, again, he's incredibly generous with his time and everything. He's just a lovely guy. He's hilarious as well. He's a lot of fun, so he's cool.
I don't know too many people in this space, in the carnivore space in general. And I'm not saying everybody, because there are a select few, but I don't know too many of us that really aren't like just open, willing, like helpful, more so than I see in a lot of other spaces. Not to denote any, other community groups or whatever, but I rarely see other carnivores just, how do I say that? I don't see them as snobby towards other people in general, like I'm too good to talk to you kind of perspective.
No.
And I found that really interesting when I started my account because, I immediately, when I started seeing everything, was like, I need to tell everybody about this. Like, everybody needs to know that there's this, like way to better your life. Even if you don't dive in full force like I did, like something's better than nothing, right? Like everybody's got to hear about this. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't even know who Anthony Chafee was. I barely knew who Sean Baker was. Barely. Like 2 months. I had heard of his name. So all of the quote, high pillar of influential groups in the carnivore space, like, I don't know, everybody that I speak to has been open arms, welcoming, kind, loving, helpful. And that, if nothing else, speaks volumes about I think, overall mental wellness of people who are carnivore, because you're rarely reactive, you're rarely aggressive, not that you can't be, but the desire to just like fly off the handle or be like reactive based off of an unhinged emotional trigger is very minimal, I've noticed.
Well, the brain is nourished then, and you see so many people who were vegan and then go carnivore, and the aggression goes, the sort of very great sensitivity, and also a lack of sense of humor, I find, because I get a lot of not so much anymore, but in the early days of my channel I used to get all sorts of death threats and attacks and stuff.
I've had a few of those.
And some of them were hilarious, and it was one I read out on Anthony's, and I won't read it out here because it's absolutely obscene, but it was kind of phrased in a hilarious fashion, and I find it very funny now, and you always just reply to them chilled out because you know what's going on. If they're calling you a corpse eating ghoul and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's just really amusing. But also at the same time, you have compassion because you know what they're going through. Their brains are not nourished. Their brains are shrinking down, and stuff's going horribly wrong in their physiology. And there we go. Either they figure it out or they don't. It's usually when there's a huge health collapse. It's usually when most of us figure it out. This quick one here, the real Tier said again, you know what Darko Velchek says about thinning hair, dehydration? Yeah, Darko, I've got a couple of friends who are well into him and his salt healing protocol. And it's just, you know, drinking seawater all day pretty much is, I've seen great healing on it, you know, stories of great healing on it, particularly with carnivore. And I do, so on some days, put quite a bit of salt in the water. If you feel certain ways, a little bit of brain fog, any sort of cramp or something like that, you know, it can really balance the electrolytes. Now, I'm not talking about a pinch and a little bit of water, but somewhere in between that and what Darko Velchek says. But I have also seen people come pretty much unstuck with this excessive seawater drinking thing. So I don't know. I have an open mind about everything. And everybody keeps saying I must get Darko on my podcast. And I don't know. I got to look into it a bit more and decide, really. But interesting stuff. Interesting.
Brian's comment is funny as well, but he says, let's face it, we're talking about vegans and kekopaths. But I also think the random comments just go to the people who, you know, can't really open up their mindset that we can be biologically in tune with just eating meat or just eating animal foods. And so that goes to the standard eaters as well as the vegans. And just like you mentioned, Phil, like I've also been fruitarian and vegan as well, just trying different diets. Never felt as good as carnivore, so I don't see maneuvering another way. But you're right, it's entertaining at this point. I used to take it personal, like you're gonna die from this disease. This is all cause mortality from meat, and I'm like, now it's just funny. Now the replies, which Selina, I know you're on so many. I just more like, this is a you problem. This isn't a me problem anymore. Like, but at first I took it as a me problem.
No, it's funny, isn't it? Because when you start to get these attacks, and you know, well, even if you have had some success, you're going to die of heart disease or something soon. I mean, I didn't really list everything, but I had fatty liver, I had cysts on the liver, I had kidney issues and kidney stones, I had calcifications, I had rosacea and eczema and pompholix, which is a weird thing on the palm of your hands. I had all kinds of what docs call autoimmunity going on and metabolic issues. And then I went fully carnivore. And surely if I was that sick at that time, I would have been a prime candidate for carnivore to have killed me within a month. If it's as bad as you think, you know, all you vegans and dietitians who get pretty much as angry as the vegans because they're much more of an expert than we are, exactly, you know, much more qualified. And so here's the problem. They have such education, they think, you know, you've got that kind of Dunning-Kruger thing going on with the dietitians. And, you know, I once found an article in the Dietitian magazine or something about dietitians and their weight struggles, and telling people that they should really still listen to fat dietitians because, you know, it's really not something that anybody can do anything about at a certain stage, and they're still experts. You're like, come on, you know, come on, it's ridiculous. Some of the dietitians I find are the fattest people in hospitals. You know, there's one, honestly, a legendary one in a local hospital to me. And somebody joked that she needed a reversing warning, you know, like lorries if she's walking backwards.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's horrible to be sort of body shaming like that. And I have compassion for these people. But seriously, if you're in the health space and you look like that, surely people should start to get a little bit suspicious about the advice that they're giving.
Exactly. It's it follows along with that same line that as a child I absolutely loathed hearing any adult say to me. I have a little bit of a rebellious streak, so this one really hit really wrong for me. And that was do as you're told, not as I do. Do as I say, not as I do, like whatever form of that. And it used to make me go, well, if I'm not supposed to do it, then why are you? If this is such a bad thing for people to be doing, then why is it you're doing it, but I'm supposed to do something better than you? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. But it follows that same kind of principle. It's like, oh, well, you're so knowledgeable. You're so expertise in this particular thing, but you don't even follow your own advice. But I should believe that you know what you're talking about. It's like, prove it. And that's might be like asshole-ish of me to kind of stand on that point. But the reality is, with anything, so I'm still not at the weight that I desire to be, but I'm working on it. But I also had so much to go through.
Oh, Selina's frozen.
Yeah, she froze. Well, while she comes back, I was going to share the same point as when I was growing up. I'd hear something that also stuck with me, which didn't really sit well, which is, especially in high school, as you grow up, you're going to start buying clothes that are going to be larger and larger because that's what happens when you get older. So, like, I'm going to get this for you for next year because you're going to be larger, especially when you go to college. And
wow.
And these things happened as well, but we're also being trained in the family. I'll speak to my own family that getting heavier is normal and that eating the improper foods and getting heavier is part of aging. And she'll probably come back in a second, but it's very interesting, I'm sure, with you and so many other carnivores, is that now I'm, wearing clothes that I used to wear so many years ago that I may still have, or I've had to purchase new clothes that are back in the realm. I had to change all my jeans for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jeans don't expand in the waist as much as shorts or maybe some flex bands of other casual pants. But yeah, like blue jeans for sure. I had to scale back down eating this way. So, by the way,
I never thought I'd be back in like 28 or 30 jeans, and I have been,
Yeah, it's crazy. It feels good though, but it's also like Brian says, he said so well, I see sick people. I think he said that on Dr. Baker's podcast. Like what's one of the bad or negatives of the carnivore diet? And he says, I see sick people. And it's true. And it's tough with your friends, family, those you maybe work with, to just see them going in the wrong direction. Like, there he is. He said, yes, I did. And I see a comment, for example, on Alia in our carnivore community. She had a comment on her post, and someone was like, looks like carnivore is not working for you. And I replied to this random person, just a hater for no reason. And it's like, you don't know where she is right now on her journey. You can't judge where people are right now on their journey unless you know where they came from. And that's the part about seeing sick people, is if you can see where they are now from where they came from and they're getting worse, that's where it's tough. But to see so many people like now, and if you're not at your ideal weight, your goal weight, like Selina mentioned, okay, that's fair and fine. But I jumped on this person quickly because this person was looking at a human who is healing quickly, as you said, Phil, and to see where she came from, to see where she is now, it's like, absolutely carnivore is working. You can't argue that. That's one interesting thing, though. But yeah,
I've got a video on my channel called "Why Do All Carnivores Look Like Shit?" Because this is what the vegans always say, and I say, well, if you do or if you don't, always take into account somebody's starting point. I was a proper mess, and so who would you listen to? Would you listen to somebody who was like 200 pounds overweight, and then suddenly they've lost all that, but they got some loose skin? or some guy with a channel, you know, taking all the protein powders and stuff, and they're late teens or early 20s with abs. I'm going to listen to the guy who doesn't look so good with a bit of loose skin, right? Because he's obviously done something that's been huge for his physiology. And just a real quick one here. I know who this is. I know that it's Mark Tracy, right? That I know who's in the chat now. I think that's really interesting with the salt healing protocol, healing your inguinal hernia. I wish I'd known that before I had a mesh put in that they told me would be inert, and it was another con from the medical system back in about 2012. So yeah, if I'd have known about that, I think again, open-minded. But yeah, you've popped back in, Selina. You were abducted by aliens.
I was 100%. Was the alien is about to turn 4 this month.
Aha.
That's
the
right.
alien decided that I didn't need internet, so.
There we go.
Well,
yes.
we were continuing where you left off, which is you had growing up, you were told do as you're told, not as I do. So we were just continuing through that conversation.
Thank you. I know I can always count on you, James.
Yeah. And then we just got through some, but yeah, as we were talking about like the progression of carnivore, it's not about where we are today. Phil said he mentioned something similar in a post, which is like it's the progression over time, wherever you started and where are you now. And that's the power. So yeah, it's not, we can never judge someone in the moment. Like where were you? What ailments? What were your, you know, negatives? Where are you not winning? That's how I always like to phrase it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are you winning now? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because you know, people go sort of 4 years into carnivore. I think I got this guy popped up, which prompted that video, you know, about why do all carnivores look like shit. And I had this guy really attacking me and saying, you know, how you look awful and you're just bald old man. And I say, yeah, I am. But you know, look at how I was a few years before. And what do you think actually caused the fact that I am not now absolutely ripped with a full head of hair and exactly how you want to see me? Would that be 35 years of plant-based eating, or would it be the last 4 years of carnivore where I've got rid of a load of metabolic and autoimmune issues? I think that's important to look at, you know?
Exactly. That was, I know somebody had kind of come after me a while ago. It's been a while. About my weight, and they were like, "Oh, you know, well, you're still overweight," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm 112 pounds less than I was."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, do you not see? So that perspective, I always remind myself, just from my own experience, that when I meet people and I see people and I go through everything, it's like I don't know what their story is. And if you don't know somebody's story, you can't place a perspective of how far they've come. And I don't know, I'm really hung up on the fact that this guy was saying all carnivores look awful. I mean, I hardly meet a carnivore that isn't glowing in some fashion.
Oh, it's what they want to see, isn't it? Because they're vegan and they have to think like that. Otherwise, it would not. The whole world would blow up, really, which it will do at some point, obviously. But they don't want to let go of it, so they have to have all that emotional attachment to it, which isn't logical at all. But it's also very sad, I think, with people holding on to their illnesses because of the brainwashing of the medical system.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this was brought home to me recently, which I've been talking about quite a bit recently, but I think it's worth mentioning because I've probably been thrown out of every single arthritis Facebook group on Facebook, even the healing naturally ones, for daring to suggest that you can possibly heal it naturally. And so, you know, I used to go around them and sort of comment, try and help people out, but 90% of it is just attacks. And so I gave it up, and I made a video probably 6 years ago, I think, about, you know, how rheumatoid arthritis Facebook groups stop you healing. and started up my own one. And then somebody tagged me last month sometime in this group, which is called Rheumatoid Arthritis Support or something. There's 90,000 people in there. And somebody had tagged me going, oh, you should have a word with Phil Escott. And I thought, oh, no, am I going to get involved in this? And I thought, well, all right, it won't be long before I'm thrown out. But apparently the admins seem to be bots on this and you don't get thrown out, even though loads of people called for me to be thrown out for my dangerous misinformation. But this went on, and I probably spent a good 2 or 3 days in there. I can't help answering people, you know, and I was being very chilled through the whole thing, and lots and lots of attacks, you know, even if it cured my joints, then I'm just going to get a heart attack, you know, and all of this sort of stuff. And my doctor tells me this, and you're just a grifter because you're selling books. And I said, I haven't mentioned my book. You've Googled me. You found my book. And you think that I make money on it, right? That one on Amazon, good month, $200. Great. Yeah, that's great with a family of 4, isn't it? Yeah, brilliant. I'm only in it for the money. And then I even tagged, I think, well, I put a video up of either one of Anthony's things, or I think it was Anthony's thing, and then one of Mary Ruddock's, you know, great friend of mine. She's just amazing. Anybody look up my channel, look at her talk in Spain from last year. I put it up last week. It's genius. Anyway, so Mary Ruddock, who lives with all these indigenous tribes, and put that up, say, you know, what do we eat in the wild? Anyway, I got
you'll be hard pressed.
Sorry?
I said you'd be hard pressed to be vegan, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so the next comment was, you know, well, not only are you selling books, but now you've linked to one of your friends' channels. How much of a kickback do you get for that? I'm like, They won't even know I've done it. I said to Anthony, you remember when you sent me a load of money last week, you know, for when I linked to it? He went, no. He went, no. And I said, no, neither do I. And I said, so I even said in the group, right, anybody in this group can have my course, my book for free. I'll send it to you. I'm not in here to make money at all, just to tell you that this really does work. And then they're still attacking, you know, and it's oh yeah, but then you'll be upselling to something else. No, what? Oh, look, he's got a high ticket carnivore event in Spain. Yeah, it's the only damn thing that makes me any money every year. It's the only reason I can even afford to go on a holiday. And yes, I do. And I'm not selling that in here. That's the last place I'm going to sell something with a $4,000 ticket is in a you know, a mainstream rheumatoid arthritis group. I said, you're all banned from that. I'm not going to sell that to anybody. I'm not giving that away for free, but you can have my course, you can have my book, you can have anything. And it's crazy that, and it's so sad though, really, because you know that this would really, really help them.
Yeah.
And these people are sometimes paying thousands a month for biologic injections and things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not working. It's harming their livers. They're still posting pictures of their swollen joints. And yet I'm a grifter for saying, why don't you try eating meat and fat for 90 days?
Damn it, Phil.
And I know, and I'll send you all my books and stuff. It just unbelievable. It really is. But you can't, as my friend Jack Cruz once said, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't guarantee it won't piss in it. Which I think in this case is a more accurate example than the original saying, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Mark says here in the chat, sometimes I get thrown out of carnivore groups when I start talking about high salt intake. Well, as you know, mate, I haven't thrown you out of mine. It's free speech in mine.
I find the salt perspective is definitely very individual per person. My husband, when we were transitioning over, he could not hardly handle any salt intake. He was one of those people that, like, it was a major no-go, caused a lot of issues. He can handle putting salt on his food and stuff now, but we're almost 2 years in, whereas the first 6 to 8 months, it caused him a lot of trouble. Me, on the other hand, I could, you know, practically just eat spoonfuls of it. I was fine. Like, just, I think that's definitely a per person how.
Yeah, Mark has got a definite point, because I mean, we always think of hydration as drinking enough water, which is nonsense, because it's
Right.
stripping out a load of minerals, and then it's also putting deuterium into the cells. You know, we take too much of regular water and we've got extra deuterium that we really don't need. It's not good for the mitochondria. And I think it was about 2012, just after I went keto, and I ended up hospitalized because palpitations were so bad. I thought my heart was giving out. It was just stopping every 3 beats and then thumping and starting again. Anyway, they did a scan and found out there was no calcifications. And I'd seen calcifications before. They went very quickly, even on keto. And the guy said, no, it's just an electrolyte problem or something, but they didn't know what to do about it. So I started taking a load of magnesium, and it kind of helped. But then it was my son coming back from climbing, and he always used to take some salt and put it in some water if he got cramps. And he said, haven't you figured it out? And I said, I put loads of salt in my food. And he said, no, it doesn't work like that. He said, in water is what you need. And I think, you know, a very high salt intake at times like that can be absolutely miraculous. And I'm sure Mark would be itching to come onto this call and say, no, we all need shitloads of salt, you know, buckets full of it. And I think he's got a point. He says here, you know, for those of us who are toxic, we have to take it slow on the salt. There'll be some detox, which is not pleasant. That's definitely true. Have to start slow on salt and work up slowly to higher salt amounts. Yeah, I don't know. I go by my intuition, really. And if I feel that I need it on a certain day, then I'll do it. It's more rare now. It doesn't really happen. It's very, very unusual. But you know, Escott guy is very interesting. If people want to go have a look at him, I'm not somebody who ever really pushes Darko Velchek at all, but I'm open-minded, and Mark is a big expert on this. And you know, if this sounds interesting to people, go check out Darko Velchek for sure. Keep an open mind. But yeah, I think, you know, just really to go back to carnivore, just the power of it so much. And what I always stress to people with autoimmunity is that if people come to me on a carnivore diet and say it's not working so well, to me it's always one of the 4 or all 4 or some of pork, chicken, dairy, or eggs. I mean, this gets me into terrible trouble as well, because like I have an interview with my friend Sophia Clements where we go really deep into dairy and autoimmunity, and at Paleomedicina there, where they're even reversing things like glioblastomas. I mean, her work is incredible, and she puts dairy up with grains and seed oils as evil, and raw dairy. This gets people very angry. The raw dairy people are almost as bad as the vegans. And, you know, I put a little video up. We were wandering around with Sophia in the Peak District a couple of years ago at the PHC conference. And she happened to mention she thinks raw dairy is worse than pasteurized. And I thought, right, I'm just going to stop and do a little quick video. And we just mucked about with that and just came to some stupid conclusions. But I did a proper podcast with her about it later. And her thoughts are that there are higher growth factors, because the growth factors are also untouched, although the lactase is there to help digest the lactose. So, you know, if you have raw dairy, a lot of people don't get the issues immediately, but the growth factors down the line can cause unusual cell replication. And so that can lead to cancer, for example. And people get very angry about that, because, you know, if you come off a regular diet, like Anthony Chaffee says, you know, if people go into these raw milk diets and things, in comparison to what? If they come from a regular diet and then they go into raw milk or something, yes, they're going to have an awful lot of benefits.
Yeah.
Just like some people do when they do the ridiculous juicing, you know, at least short term, because it's basically a fast. But if you compare, what I would like to see is a whole load of people on a raw milk diet compared to somebody on a PKD diet. You know, they're Paleomedicina's Paleolithic ketogenic diet, which is basically, it's very simple, really. It's 2/3 fat to 2/3 lean meat to 1/3 fat by sight on the plate. So I make it up with tallow if your steak's not fatty enough, or your ground beef or something. And that has been an incredible sweet spot If anyone's out there struggling with autoimmunity, to go to that is like night and day from even a regular carnivore diet. The sort of carnivore diet that, as long as it's real low in carbs, will blow up diabetes within a couple of months, type 2.
Right.
But with autoimmunity, it's a little bit more complicated. But, I keep saying this word autoimmunity, but I'd love to also say that I don't think there's such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The body does not attack itself. It's not that stupid.
Right.
It doesn't get confused and start, so the doctors are obviously, they just don't know. They go, oh, well, it just attacks itself. Obviously that's rubbish, because they need to think that it's incurable to be able to sell these powerful meds, because they're basically, aren't they? They're just corner boys, aren't they? They're drug dealers for the
That is not what I think of when you say corner boys, but okay.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, well, that's more the elite territory, isn't it? But we better not get into that. Yeah. But yeah, the guys selling their little bags of smack on the corner and stuff, and they're basically that for the biggest drug cartel in the world, which is the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah. So they mean well, but they are horribly mistaken about autoimmunity. And it was funny because in Spain, not last year, but the year before, at the beginning of my talk, I was saying that I really don't think there's any such thing. And it doesn't even make sense to me, this molecular mimicry, where they say the body gets confused because the gut's leaky. So the proteins get through, like all the glutens, stuff like that. And then the body sees a similar molecular section, molecular makeup of a certain tissue in the body, and starts attacking it. That doesn't make any sense to me either. I believe that the body's clearing out toxins from those certain areas, and then when the gut's not leaky, the toxins are not getting in anymore. But Anthony then did his talk after me, and he made a really important point, and I think this is absolutely crucial for anybody who has got this to understand. When the symptoms die down, the gut's healed, the toxins are out, the body still has antibodies against those particular proteins and toxins. Yet there's no symptoms. The body doesn't carry on attacking the joints or the thyroid. And that is so important, I think, that people would understand that there is no such thing as autoimmunity.
Right.
So any thoughts on type 1 diabetes?
Yes. I believe if you catch it early, and paleomedicine have shown this, if you catch it really early in childhood or whenever it starts, it can be completely reversed. But obviously there is an issue when, the body that doesn't have enough beta cells to produce this insulin. But people with type 1, at the very least, they seem to be able to reduce their insulin massively when they go onto carnivore. And it's horrible to see in all these groups, whether it's type 1 or type 2, you have to keep your carbs up, and you have to, complex carbs, and you have to do this and that. So, if you have to inject a load of insulin to balance up the carbs, why not just stop eating the fucking carbs? I'm sorry.
Right?
It's insane, isn't it? It's absolutely insane.
It is.
But they have, paleomedicine have had some great results with type 1.
Well, I got to say, jumping a little bit 5 minutes back or so, I've been never too urgent on these Facebook groups to get kicked out. But yeah, I agree. People start questioning very much. I'm in like low carb for autism, low carb for diabetes. So this is to designate not carnivore. So saying carnivore and saying meat only, saying cut carbs triggers people. I'm like, this is a low carb group. Why wouldn't you consider? Well, the replies are, do you actually have this? Are you autistic? Do you have diabetes? Like, what are you saying? I love it. So, but also,
it's the other thing they say, isn't it? They said it to me. Oh, you obviously never had it.
Yeah.
Have you ever even had rheumatoid arthritis? Or sorry, you're just lying. You don't know anything about it. You're like, really? Okay.
I used to have to get on in my early like discussion before even like creating my carnivore social media sites, just in my in-person circles, and I would have to like prove that I had cancer because they were like, "No way, bullshit. Like you didn't. There's no way it healed that way." And if it wasn't that, then it wasn't your diet change, it was a miracle by God. And I
Mm.
not to discredit anybody's belief system. Everybody has their own everything, whatever. I'm happy you guys all choose whatever you choose. But I'm like, I know for a fact that it is not a miracle that is like some magic. Somebody decided to touch a finger on me and said, "Okay, you're healed." It's like I understand. I did a major physiological change to my entire lifestyle, and this allowed my body to live in an environment that supported itself to heal itself like it was meant to. It's meant to heal itself. That's not some crazy miracle, that's not some crazy anything. We are literally taught this in elementary school. Our bodies are designed to repair. Why is it we think it can't repair itself?
Because we're taught to go to the doctor every 3 to 6 months.
It's
Yeah,
madness.
exactly. Exactly. It's funny when doctors cite cases of spontaneous remission.
Mhm.
And if you look into it, it's very seldom it's spontaneous remission. It's
Right.
something that they did, and it's
Mhm.
not always diet. I won't
Right.
criticize people who say that they healed through certain
No,
spiritual things,
me
because
neither.
the third third of my book is all about all that stuff and emotional
Right.
balancing and how certain traumas and fears and emotional issues
Yes.
can direct so-called illnesses to different parts of the body. And
100%
I've never
agree.
heard a better explanation. I mean, if you go to a rheumatologist and say, well, why is it in my left knee and not my right knee? Why is it in my elbow and not my neck? Why, they have no
Usu
answer.
Yeah, usually you get, well,
If you
you
look
must
at,
have damaged it at some point in
yeah,
your younger
yeah,
years.
yeah, there's that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And but in a sense, you probably have, but not in the way they say. It's
exactly.
some sort of emotional thing. If anybody's fascinated about this, there's a book. It's actually there. There's a book called The Secret Language of Your Body by Inna Seagal. Now that
Okay.
looks backwards to me. I don't know whether it is on the thing, but
It's not.
this
I can read it.
Yeah.
this book is fantastic, and you can look up any body part or any ailment, or even down to individual vertebrae, and
Mhm.
the sort of different factors on consults. I often go into that with people. I go, "That's uncanny. That's me. That's what I'm frightened about. That's what I'm worried about." But it all works better with a carnivore diet. Trust in God, but tie up your camel, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it
And
all
that's
works better on that. Yeah.
that's why I say, like, I don't denote what anybody, believes and what their system and all that is, but the reality is, like, I know what shifted my my state. I know what it is.
Yeah.
I know what happened. Speaking on what you are touching base on now, though, I also know that in my particular experience, I also am fortunate enough that I have a mother who works in frequency
Mhm.
assistance. Let me put it that way. So she has an entire residence room, and I spent 3 days. She didn't have the room at the time. I spent 3 days completely, um, engulfed and immersed as well in a specific frequency for different parts of the body in addition to my dietary change and my physical change. So I do understand the awareness that our traumas and our pains can definitely affect certain areas. Even in Chinese medicine, they have taught for thousands of years different organs, different parts of the body, different everything is associated to every emotional aspect. And depending on what you're experiencing and depending on what you're having, these things most likely were brought on due to some sort of trauma,
Mm.
some sort of emotional imbalance, something that you're carrying in those areas. And that's why those parts are weakened. And whatever we are putting into our environment that is not cohabitable within our system, it's going to damage, hurt, accumulate in the areas that we have that are weakened. It's not rocket science, although it sounds like it's pretty far out there.
No, it's not, and this is the basis of German new medicine now as well, isn't it? That it's all on trauma and stuff. It's very interesting things, but to have the diet right is a huge basis for it. And then I think just get that right, and then go look at the rest of it, because then the parts of healing become very interesting. I think it's funny with these sort of natural cures and how few of them the docs have seen. Apologies if you've seen other videos with me, but I think this is a real interesting story. When my mum, it was probably about 2017, something like that. She was like 93 or something, 92. And she said one day, I've got this real lump in my breast. And it was, like 6 centimeters across. The skin was starting to change. And I thought, yeah, that's definitely breast cancer. Anyway, so I thought, better take her along to the oncologist and see what's going on. And he said, yes, it's breast cancer, whatever. So you got to take this, you've got to take that. And I said, no, I can't be bothered with that. So here's my plan, what we're going to do. And so I sketched it all out for him. I threw everything at it to start with a carnivore diet with all the certain mushrooms and everything, and Essiac tea and thing. It wasn't really working at all. And then I got her on some of the Rick Simpson oil, the proper long trousers cannabis oil that you can get locked up for, which is ridiculous, obviously. And that started to work and shrink it down along with the carnivore diet. But, at that age, it was the first time she'd ever been really stoned. And she was absolutely mashed. And I'd go around there some days and she was just gone, and I thought, I can't really do this. I went around there one day and she's sweeping the lawn, what are you doing? And she said, I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, so then I had this idea because, with fibrocystic breast syndrome, and you take a lot of iodine, paint the iodine on the breasts, very often it just disappears very quickly. So I thought, well, I wonder if this would work. So I put her on an iodine protocol as well. And, this tumor was starting to get really close to ulcerating through the skin. And I did say to the oncologist, because he thought I was an idiot, but he was quite a good guy. He didn't get angry or anything. He was a surgical oncologist. So his whole income didn't depend on prescribing revolting things.
Right.
And he was a nice guy, but he still thought I was an idiot. And anyway, so I said to him, look, if we do fail on this, would it be possible to take the breast off, or at least partial, the lumpectomy or something? If it gets painful for her, can you do that on a local? Because, you don't really want to be giving somebody of that age a general anesthetic if you don't have to. And he was really helpful. He's saying, yeah. Anyway, we finished this iodine protocol and it didn't seem to be working. It was like a 3-month protocol. And I had read that sometimes it works after, like 2-3 months down the line. It can be the same with things like Hashimoto's and Graves as well, for the thyroid, you're taking the iodine. Anyway, so one day, I'd given up actually, because every day I was painting it on, I was giving her the drops, and then just got her onto a maintenance dose. And I thought, I've given up really on that one. Then she came in one day and she said, it's disappearing. I thought, nah, it can't be. It was just too severe. The skin had completely come back to normal. The lump was like half the size and it was going down really quickly. And
That's
so
awesome.
I took her back to the oncologist. And I didn't say a word. He must have thought, right, he's coming back in. It's going to be a mess under there. He wants surgery. I didn't say a word. And he examined her. And I could see him. He just stopped dead like that. And he turned around to me and he said, how on earth did you do that? And I said, I told you exactly how I was going to do it. I gave you, I printed it out. I told you the plans. And I said, right, you're an oncologist. Is that the first natural cancer reversal you've ever seen? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm a drummer and I've seen quite a few. And I keep having to tell this story because it was so satisfying to be able to say that to an oncologist,
Yes.
for a complete lunatic. And I'd love to talk to him now to see if he took any notice of it, but probably not, because, there's that old saying, isn't there, that it's very difficult to convince someone when their income depends on not being convinced of it.
Right. Or
They
they're
don't
Yeah.
being
they don't want to know. When
Yeah.
I was really, but almost completely healed, I got this appointment with a rheumatologist. Came up again. I decided I wasn't going to have anything to do with them, but this appointment came up for a checkup or something. So I thought, I'll go back and show off. And I was the only one who could jump around in the waiting room. They were all there with their limbs bandaged up and on sticks and, eating biscuits out of their handbags and stuff. And I went in to see him and he got really angry. He didn't want to know,
No, they
he was
don't.
actually foaming at the mouth. And I had to say, when you foam at the mouth like that, it can be a sign of heart disease. And he got really angry and started shouting loads. Even the nurse was going, whoa, like that. And I just left and I've never been back since. It was a waste of time going there. Furious he was. He was just shouting, it's going to get into your heart and into your lungs. And then, just go, and then you're going to get a malignancy. And then maybe if you give them the stuff that you give them,
Right?
that's what you're seeing all the time, not me.
Well, my endocrinologist, when I refused treatment with him and I wasn't going to go the route that he wanted me to go, he ended up calling DSS on me because I was at harm.
Yeah,
And I was like, are you
maybe.
freaking crazy? And I think more than anything else, it was because his ego was wounded that I thought I knew better than he did. That's it. That is all.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I have a common phrase for mainstream universities or establishments for licensing are regurgitation university.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. And so people are unknowingly learning incorrect or false information, and then only trained to regurgitate, not to think critically. So Phil, you show up. Here's an example of proof, natural healing. Selina, you did it yourself. Here's proof, and people don't want to hear it at all.
Yeah, they know that they're going to have to give up their big house and cars and everything if that happens. It's sometimes it's really heartbreaking. I remember there's a video again on my YouTube channel called "Criminal Rheumatologist Destroys Family," and it was me reading out an email that I sent to this rheumatologist because I was heartbroken. Really, it was somebody came to me for a consult about their daughter who was like 4 or 6 years old or something, and she had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. She didn't want to give this girl the methotrexate, of course, that awful hand-me-down cancer drug that doesn't really work and blows up your liver and detaches your retina and all sorts. Anyway, she wouldn't do it. And so eventually social services and even the police got involved, saying, you've got to take this kid in to have this done. This family ended up on the run to get away from these social services. And this was because the rheumatologist reported her, same way as you got done, but like that. But with the kids, they take it very seriously. And it's like kids with cancer. And if you don't go through the treatment, they come and nick the kid, and it's horrific, absolutely horrific what they do. And, it did just absolutely destroy the family. She ended up on the run, absolutely broke. And, and this was all down to this rheumatologist. And I thought, I had his email address. I know he read it. Obviously, he never replied, but I read it out on this video that I made, and I said, "This is for you, mate. You've done this to this family, and you have no idea how much healing I've seen with what I'm saying, which will do this child no harm whatsoever. This is our species appropriate, proper human diet that I'm recommending, and you're recommending something that's not going to work." And it's going to detach her retinas and blow up her liver. This is a child. They can't take much onslaught with crap like methotrexate.
No.
And it was horrible. Absolutely horrific situation. I remember going on a call with her and the social worker and a policewoman, and they wouldn't let me get a word in edgewise. It was just like, she'd asked for me to come on as to back her up and as a sort of alternative expert, if you like. And no, they wouldn't listen to a word. It was just, you stay there and you just keep quiet, and I was just bursting out of me. I thought, you fuckers are just,
Right?
what are you doing to this child?
Yeah,
Horrific.
it's crazy. There was a case not that long ago here in the US, down in Florida, where you're at, James. I think you remember Rance talking about it. Um, a a young teenage boy, I think he not excessively young, he was, what, 14 or 15, I think? But same sort of scenario, not with rheumatoid arthritis. It was an extreme cancer, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. But the parents wanted to go an alternative route. They didn't wanna put him through all of the chemo and radiation, and the boy himself was requesting this particular route that the parents were advocating for him, and the hospitals and doctors that, had been kind of looking at his case decided that they were mistreating him, and it was considered child neglect. They went after the parents, they arrested the parents, they took the teenage boy, and they put him through the treatments without consent.
It's
Arrested his parents.
it's unbelievable, isn't it? But the thing is, they get away with it because there are a whole load of alternative treatments out there that are absolute rubbish.
Agreed.
And there are a whole load of snake oil salesmen. And so
Yeah.
it's like you see in the Facebook groups, when they decide they're going to heal naturally, what's the first thing they think of? Oh, more fruit and veg, and the banner pick.
Yeah.
And the banner pick is all it's just like it looks like an oxalate catalog.
It does.
And you go into those groups and go, oh, healing naturally. Oh God, there's not a steak on there. There's nothing. It's all green and berries and stuff. And
Yeah.
you're like, this is going to be trouble. I'm not going to last the day in this group.
No.
And it happens all the time. So, when this business of the arrests and having kids taken away, it's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it goes back to, like Sophia at Paleomedicina. She gets in terrible trouble for treating type 1 diabetic kids. They've really threatened her and said she's not even allowed to do that. She's got to leave the kids alone. And that is heartbreaking for her because of the incredible success she was having. And she finds it very difficult to get papers published. Just doesn't get them published in mainstream stuff. And then I was looking into it the other day and really looked into the history of peer-reviewed studies and medical journals. And these were all owned by the big publishers. And they made fortunes out of these medical journals when it was the outlet for anybody in the medical system who wanted to put a paper out,
Yep.
have it reviewed and get some respect to move forward in their career. But obviously they couldn't get anything published that went against the mainstream narrative or too far against it. That would just get buried. And then there's evidence that the millions and billions that were made from these medical journals were actually used to, how can I put this, to engineer pandemics and finance, injectables and things. And the whole criminal history of the medical system and those medical journals. Oh, peer-reviewed studies. Hearing Bart go on about peer-reviewed studies, he actually had a go at them, didn't he, on the episode that you were on with him, and how ridiculous they are, how unreliable they are. There was one time when somebody brought out some study that was peer-reviewed, and buried in it, on a certain page was, call this number and we'll send you a free crate of champagne. And nobody called that number. They probably just didn't even read it. It was just like, oh yeah, that's somebody in the old boy network that's written this. Yeah, we'll approve it. This is peer reviewed. No, it wasn't. Probably nobody even bothered to read it. And it's criminal. If people realize what was actually going on out there, it's like the vegans. Where are the studies? Where are the studies?
Yeah. Well,
There's not a reliable study anywhere.
Yeah.
This is all just useless anecdotes from the carnivore community. Well, if you look at the anecdotes, there's far more anecdotes of the success of carnivory than there is even the cohorts in these big studies, these big dietary studies. And that's just anecdotes anyway, because they're just writing down how much broccoli they ate last year and probably lying about it anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's incredible, just nonsense.
Oh, Selina, you're muted.
Sorry. I said exactly. And how many of them are just like checked box census forms? They're not even like, here, mail this back in. Hey, we've got, 5,000 people have told us that blah, blah, blah. And based off these results, it's like, well, really? Did you actually test anything? Did you actually look at anything? Did these people even come in? Like, no, you just asked them, did you eat a hamburger? Oh, it's the red meat.
Yeah.
What?
Along with the fries and the shake.
Yeah, when they pretend, that's exactly it. When they pretend that meat causes cancer and heart disease in these studies, which is it's actually even twisted there.
Yeah.
But their idea of meat is, pepperoni pizza or KFC or something, isn't it?
It's insane.
Yeah.
It makes like no sense. One thing that really opened my husband's eyes when I was trying to like explain this to him and kind of like, you have to really watch, even with these studies and these research papers and all of this stuff, how valid is the study itself? And he was like, well, they're done by doctors. And I'm like, babe, I'm telling you, you actually have to read it. You actually have to go through and read all of that horrendous fine print. And half the time, they will actually contradict themselves in their own studies if you read them.
Yeah.
More often than you would be surprised. And there was one that he was looking at and he was like, well, they said, the carnivore diet could hinder, and it was this particular issue that we were both like hyper studying at the time. And I'm like, did you read that? And he was like, well, no. And so I went on and I read the whole thing and I screenshotted all these different parts of it. And I said, here, they didn't even do the study. This person has published a research paper off of researching somebody else's research paper.
Yeah.
It's not even a real research paper. Like, they didn't even do any research.
I had a friend approach me the other day, a good friend. He's also healthy. He says, look, I know you're eating meat, but just to let you know, I saw this recent study that came out and it shows that, eating lots of red meat causes cancer. He was very serious. This is maybe 2 weeks ago. And I love the concern in his eyes. Again, as I said earlier, this is a you thing, not me anymore. So I'm just kind of laughing at this. Like, well, I'm good, but okay, I'll listen to you. Let me tell you, this study, without me even reading it, is typically about the burger, which includes somebody who ate the fries and the shake and the soda. Like you said, Selena, it's about the pizza that has pepperoni or sausage on it, but it has all the other flour and carbs and fake cheese with it. So I was telling him these things as well. I'm like, these studies are usually manipulated. So I'm not so worried about it. I do appreciate where you're coming from. And we moved on.
Well, when I say to people who are hung up in these studies and diet gurus and that kind of thing, I say really to find out about diet, I think people should study 3 things, which is anthropology and plant toxins and deuterium. And you study those 3, even maybe without the deuterium thing, but it does explain a hell of a lot. If you know about plant toxins, well, you make up your own mind. 98% or something of the plants on the planet will kill you or give you a visit to the hospital or serious gastric issues.
Yeah.
And then we're told that the other 1 or 2% are healthy. It's basic botany. These have defense chemicals. Anybody who hasn't seen Anthony's plants are trying to kill you video, check it out. It's these are toxic. They really are. And people go, oh, well, you do, if you've got the right gut bacteria, these oxalates don't matter. And, it's just nonsense. I tell you, the pain of kidney stones. I can't tell you. It's
horrendous.
Unbelievable.
I would give birth to
smoothies. Have you had them too, Selena?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I was vegan vegetarian for a long portion of my life. We all seem to do dumb things in our younger years. And at this point, I had been vegan for probably about 6 years straight, grew up mostly vegetarian quite a bit. And I'm at work. Fortunately, my dad happened to come by. When he came by, realized I was not in the shop. I used to help run like an art gallery. And I was 17, 18. I think I was almost 18. Realized I wasn't in the shop. He went looking. There was about 5 shops that were kind of all within this building. He went looking to see if I had like gone to one of the other units to talk to somebody or whatever. He's like, the shop's wide open. What's going on? Nobody knew where I was. He decides to burst into the women's bathroom. I was passed out cold on the women's bathroom floor. I was in so much pain that I actually passed out. I have an extremely high pain tolerance. He rushes me to the hospital, and of course, they find I have kidney stones that I'm unable to pass. So they had to surgically remove them. I never in all of my life have experienced so much pain, and I have given birth to 2 children, and the first one completely natural in every sense of the medical term of no medication at all. I would do that again 100-fold.
I've heard this. I'm glad you said that, because 2 nurses who have been through both have said that to me.
Mhm.
And, when I was in for the kidney stones, and people don't believe it. They
Yeah.
say, oh, you're just a guy, you don't have much pain tolerance. And like, no, it's unbelievable.
Mhm.
And I remember the last time I had one, it was 2022. This is 8 years after I had any oxalates. And I had Sally Norton on my podcast, and I was talking to her about it, wrote Toxic Superfoods and is
Yeah.
really up on all the oxalates. And she was saying, yeah, it can take decades to get rid of these things. They're awful. They get so stuck in the tissues. And I had a kidney stone then, and luckily I passed that one on my own. It wasn't that big, but the kids were asking, they were saying is Daddy going to die? Because I was on the floor treating you, writhing around, trying to find a comfortable position. And I'm going, no, it's okay. I'm not going to. It's just, I cannot pass this pain off.
Yes.
Usually you can kind of brave yourself through a bit of pain and
Right.
cover it up, but not when a kidney stone's coming down that ureter. My God. The
No.
first one I had it was too big to get down there. I had it stuck in there for about 3 months, and it doesn't hurt all the time. Even when it's stuck in the ureter, the body just every now and again has a go at getting it out, and then you get a real wave of it. And I ended up having to have a laser put up my knob and through the bladder and then up into the ureter and lasered out.
Fun
And
stuff.
and have it all broken up. But this is healthy spinach smoothies,
Oh, yeah. Well, I was 8 years old when I ended up with a kidney infection. 8 years old, mind you, I was mostly raised vegetarian, vegan. 8 years old. I cannot tell you the trauma I ended up having at 8 years old, being put in a hospital and having to have doctors manipulate everything down there. I'm a small child. To only realize now as an adult going, holy hell, I probably wouldn't have had any of these kidney issues. I had UTIs throughout my whole life from that point forward, regularly. I mean, I could barely look at anything that had natural sugars, and if it had any kind of dye in it, like fake dyes, I was guaranteed I was gonna get a UTI. I mean, up until I was probably, 21, 22 before I was like, "Oh, I just won't, have any of this stuff with all these dyes." Didn't get them as often, but still did. It's not been until I have been almost completely animal-based to carnivore. I haven't had one since at least 2018, and I used to get a UTI, like, twice a year at least since I was 8 years old.
Did you ever discover the D-mannose hack?
The what?
D-mannose sugar.
No.
It's a sugar that doesn't really get metabolized, and you know, I found out about it first for my mum when she had one, and you find these sort of forums of people with repeating UTIs, and the more they get the antibiotics for it, the more it comes back again afterwards, and it goes on and on. And it's just this cheap sugar, really fine sugar, like icing sugar, and you take it, and apparently it gets through, and just the E. coli love it, and so they come off the walls of anything, of the kidneys, the ureter, the bladder, and stuff like that, and you just pee them out, and people are getting rid of UTIs like that with D-MANNOSE. Yeah, Google it. It's loads of stuff about it getting rid of UTIs, but it's great if you hear of somebody with one, whether they're on carnivore or not, this can be really, really helpful. It's a real helpful hack, and it's totally harmless. You know, no antibiotics going in or anything like that. But yeah, once things are balanced out on carnivore, you probably sort all that out anyway. You know, that's good news.
I haven't had one. Same with I used to get cold sores all the time. I haven't had those since either. And that's gosh, that was something because of where I live. I would end up in high stress situations just because of my environment. Anytime my skin would get overheated, I was really, really prone to potentially end up with like a cold sore or fever blister. Haven't had one since. I'm like, interesting.
It's great, isn't it? The things that disappear.
Right.
It's like hay fever as well. You know, for 48 years, I had hay fever so bad that I was just completely streaming. I couldn't see. I would shut all the windows. I'd have like my face in a bucket of cold water or something. Just trying to get rid of all the pollen. And now I have to look around and see other people sneezing to even know it's hay fever season. It's great. Just nothing.
My husband's the same.
Yeah, brilliant.
He grew up believing that he was allergic to absolutely everything. And I laughed and I was like, you're not allergic to everything. I was like, your body's just, it's over like consumed with whatever. You can't handle everything. And I was like, you cannot be allergic to literally everything that we have that grows here in our state. Like, there's just no way. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just calling BS. And he was like, I have been since I was little. I'm like, I don't know. Since carnivore, my husband, before carnivore, let me clarify, before carnivore, he pretty much lived on antihistamines, having to take them twice a day for like, I don't know, 8 months out of the year. I don't think he's taken one in 2 years. Like,
I find it interesting in my own life that I recall the day in middle school when I first experienced asthma. Never growing up did I have asthma. I could say it could be food or it could be some sort of injection that I got around the time. But I find it so interesting. And by going carnivore, I have reduced my symptoms of asthma. I still take an inhaler mostly when I'm exercising, but not every time, only as needed. So that's very interesting to me. Whereas when I was eating prior to carnivore, I would have to take an inhaler before I would work out or go sprinting, which is my go-to workout. But again, middle school, I think it was 7th grade, going to the nurse, asthma, first time in my life. It was triggered by something. I find that interesting. I didn't just wake up. I didn't just have asthma as an infant. It happened in 7th grade, single day, and I'll never forget that day. So
yeah, it's weird, isn't it? You know, tracing back the causes of these things is difficult. My youngest, who is 10 now, we'd kind of learned a lot more, but we still got conned into a cesarean. And I don't think we needed one. And so I think the two mistakes there, probably apart from being born under horrendous artificial light, was, you know, not getting seeded with the correct microbes in the birth canal, which people are waking up to now. And, you know, cutting the cord too quickly, of course, which is very dodgy. Now but we learned how to feed him. He had only breast milk until he was weaned, and then meat, nothing else till he was about 4. And then he discovered chocolate, but he's never had vegetables. He's never had anything. He basically has some fries sometimes if we go out, you know, for a meal. He'll have some of the fries as well, but he's still 95% carnivore.
Right.
He is the most radiant, healthy, beautiful kid, incredibly intelligent, you know. And as you get older, you're supposed to be having more defective kids, right? You know, I'm an old dad. I'm kind of the age of the grandparents at his school. And yet he is, you know, the sort of athleticism and suppleness of him. And he's also hilarious and really chilled. He doesn't have tantrums. He does nothing like that. But he did have eczema and asthma, which very often go together. It's, you know, in kids, similar process, isn't it, really? And when we would sometimes put like a peeled apple quartered into his lunchbox just so that the dinner ladies didn't call the police, that it was just meat.
Right.
And if he did eat it, he would come, even a quarter of an apple, he'd come back with like weeping eczema on his cheeks.
Yeah.
And it was that quick, just with that fiber. He could eat chocolate, nothing would happen. But he'd eat that. And now, even now, incredibly fit and healthy. But if he eats past a certain amount of fries, the next day he can't breathe very well. And the asthma comes back. So it's like, as soon the chocolate doesn't do it, the fries do it. It's a fiber thing, I reckon, as well as the plant toxins in there. But, and I found that, you know, when I was really sick, really inflamed, before I learned how to eat really properly, if I ate some dark chocolate or something, which is probably also contributing to my kidney stones, as I know now, but it had no effect on the joints. It had no effect on the joints. But if I ate something with some fiber in it, like broccoli or a sweet potato or something, that would be a flare straight away, you know. And this is what people consider extremely healthy, right? So
Yeah.
it was interesting to see that with my son, because he's had nothing, you know. He's had nothing at all, really. Except for a little bit of apple and a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of fries. And that will affect him. As soon as he's on full meat, he's superhuman, boy.
That's how my almost 4-year-old is. So he was breastfed for 2 years. I was considered a geriatric mother, by the way, during my pregnancy at
Brilliant.
38 years old. And made me laugh when they came in and told me that. I remember thinking, well, where's my walker? I'm done now. Like, are you kidding me? But breastfed for 2 years straight, nothing really else. He's now mostly raw carnivore for the most part. He
Cool.
only eats raw eggs. He will not eat cooked meat. So he'll only eat, you know, cooked ground beef, raw, or he'll only eat raw ground beef, raw steak. James, I got him to eat an omelet yesterday. It was something
Oh,
cooked.
wow.
It was like, not that I have to have him eat cooked food, but it was just like, at least there's an option. There's something he can
Yeah. 'Cause he's very particular,
Yes, he is.
as I've learned.
My my little one is on the spectrum. We also ended up with a cesarean. We had an emergency C-section. His heart rate ended up jumping over 260, and so they were like, he's got to come out. So we ended up with a C-section, and there were a lot of things. Oh, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Have you eaten all your broccoli today, Peter?
Yeah, it's healthy.
Love it. And
What else have you had?
Spinach smoothie.
nice.
Healthiest one.
That's the health. Is that your favorite spinach smoothie?
Yeah.
I should make one day, just so that you can taste how
No.
revolting it
Oh
is.
man,
I want kidney stones.
it's not worth it,
Right?
right?
Pick up on it all. Yeah, no, you don't.
Smart.
One won't give you kidney stones, but
I'm still not trying it.
no, I wouldn't force that on you at all. I do force you to eat meat, don't I?
Mostly.
My 4-year-old, he will look at you and I'll be like, "Do you want this?" He's like, "No, I don't like that actually." And then he'll go eat a half a pound of it. So you're just like, "Really? You don't actually?" Really?
Yes, Selena's kid has raw meat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's I was worried at first because I couldn't get him to eat any meat for a long time. And I was like, "What am I gonna do?" Like, "How am I gonna do this?" But I was cooking everything.
Mhm.
And one day I set some steaks out on the counter. I was letting them rest for an hour, get to room temperature, and I was getting them all prepped for dinner. And I turned around from the counter and I went to the other side of the kitchen. I was getting something else out of the cabinet. And when I turned around, he had that whole ribeye in his mouth, raw, with just some salt sprinkled on top of it. And he was just going to town. And I'm telling you, people think it sounds so stupid, but tears about fell out of my eyes because I was just like, okay, all right, finally, we can do
Yeah.
this. But before that, I was kind of in a bit of a panic because I didn't know how I was gonna get him to eat anything. I couldn't get him to eat anything. It was like, "All right, we're gonna, mix this up." The only thing I could get him to eat regularly was I would make, I had, Levels protein powder and eggs, and I would make waffles with eggs and Levels protein powder, and that was, like, the most I could get him to eat for, like, the longest time, and I was kind of in a panic mode, but now we're good. We are good. He drinks about 4 to 5 raw eggs. He calls it his raw egg smoothie, eggnog smoothie. He
Mhm.
drinks those about every morning, and then he's got his ground beef for his steak, and, um, we don't tell him he can't have other things, like, if he's wanting potatoes, we avoid fruit at all costs because, he does not have a good response to it. Anytime he has fruit, he goes from being no symptoms, being able to regulate himself. He can have a couple bites, like 2 orange slices, couple slices of apple, and within an hour, um, everything that he does not portray happens. He starts going into extreme bouts of emotional dysregulation. To the point that he will even start to like hit his head on the wall. He'll start to hit himself a lot. Just can't seem to process with the sugars. So
It's
it's
amazing how little does it, isn't it? Do you remember when you
yeah.
used to eat some apple, Peter? I was just saying earlier on, you come back with this eczema on your cheeks and stuff.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But there's a video I did, and it's on my channel. It's called "Carnivore Kids Dying of Malnutrition."
Was it the video where you were eating mint?
Yeah. Well, Amelia was eating a cheeseburger, wasn't she? And you were eating what you used to call steak with a spoon, which was just basically ground beef,
I love
But it must have been like 4 or 5 years ago now that I put it up, and I put that title up purposely to get the vegans on there going,
right.
look, excellent. And they did. Quite a few of them shared it. Some of them tweeted it, and then they actually watched it, and you could see these videos coming down because they'd completely gone with the title. They thought, thank
Right.
God, now there's some guy destroying his kids with carnivore diet. But it was fascinating seeing them share it. But it's a sweet vid when they were a lot younger, and it's him and his sister just sitting there eating meat and chatting about
Yeah.
being carnivore.
I'll have to go take a look so Augie can see it. He'll be like, "Look, they're like me."
Right.
Yes, everywhere we go, sadly, we went on a date yesterday. He asked me out on a date yesterday. So we went and had breakfast, and we got, a cheese omelet out at the restaurant, and we're eating, and the guy is, like, of course, looking at him as we're standing at the counter to order, and, sweet little, like, family-owned restaurant here, and I'm, like, looking, and I'm like, "Oh, man, what is there?" And I'm like, "The only thing we can order is an omelet," literally. Like, "Okay." I'm like, "It's alright, we'll have an omelet." We get an omelet, And the guy's looking at August and he's like, "And what do you want? We have muffins and we have this." And I'm like, "No, no." And Augie looks straight up at him and is like, "No, I don't eat poison food."
Nice.
Like, of course, the guy's eyes are like this big. Like, what? We don't have poison food. And Augie's like, "Yeah, I don't eat poison food." So,
It's funny, isn't it? They assume that kids have a different sort of physiology. People always
yeah,
ask, is it all right to feed your kids carnivore? Well, are they human children?
right?
No,
Mhm.
they simply eat exactly the same as the adults. It's funny.
Right.
But my kids have been aware of it quite a bit. I remember with my daughter, when she was younger than Peter now, it was probably 10 years ago or more. And she went to one of these birthday parties, and it was one of those indoor play areas, with the ball ponds and slides and stuff like that. And then they had lunch, they do all the pizza and the ice
Yeah.
cream and all the crap. And Amelia didn't really eat it. And then as soon after, there was this massive argument with loads of kids, and there was tantrums, and it looked like a kind of a bar brawl. It was that bad,
Yeah.
and they were sort of screaming and fighting. And Amelia was just standing next to me, and it calmed down a bit. She just looked up at me and went, "Sugar."
Mhm.
I thought that was hilarious because she was actually thinking that while she was looking at them.
It is. It's wild. It's absolutely amazing to see. And like he knows the difference now. He's getting to that point where he's being more observant that, he sees in the shows, or like he'll watch a cartoon or something and, they're like all so excited to go to the ice cream store, or they're all so excited and he's like, "Mommy, I want ice cream." And I'm like, "Well, we'll make you some carnivore ice cream."
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Is carnivore ice cream the same as their ice cream? So it's like he's starting because, he's just about to turn 4. So it's not like he's also fairly sheltered. We're home a lot. We don't go out a lot. And I'm like, "Well, no, it's not the same as their ice cream, but it's much better for you." Okay. Okay. Their ice cream's not made for Augie. And I'm like, "No, baby. It's not made for Augie."
Yeah.
But
My sister-in-law is she's worried that her oldest son, who's about 5 now, has ADHD or developed ADHD. And my husband is talking to his sister, and it's like, actually notice all these changes in demeanor and responses are after high carb, high glycemic foods. And then, hours later, he'll taper back down. And then immediately all the tantrums are after the food. So it's interesting. You tried to point it out. I try not to cross boundaries, so I don't say it directly to her, but I'm saying the same thing to Kyle. I'm like, literally it's the starchy breakfast and the starchy lunch and the candy snacks. Like, we're stopping on our walks and hikes to eat literally just little bags of sugar, basically in the form of a gummy candies, and then wondering why the tantrums are happening, and that 10 minutes later we have to stop because kid won't behave. It's like, it's not ADHD, it's really tied to the food. You see that pattern recognition if you choose to look at it.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Totally.
think so many people think it's so normal though, because it's like, well, this is just what happens. This is just how it is. This is just how kids are. And it's like, well, mine just are harder. And it's like, not really. Not really. I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Well, guys, I am going to have to close this down, and move along. Speaking of our children, because I am pretty sure mine is decided to completely declothe and run around the house naked. So we are now going to have to go wrangle a feral child. But I have enjoyed this conversation immensely, and I am so grateful that you came on, Phil, amongst all of the timing errors and everything.
No, it worked out great. Even got a bit of daylight. Now I'm having to put some horrible
Yeah.
light on because it's going dark here in England. But yeah, thank you very much for having me on. And yeah, I hope it might have inspired some people. And
Thank
people
you.
on my channel, please follow Selina's. And
Oh, thank you.
for people on, so I put the
Yeah.
link underneath on my channel. And please, come along to one of our live events. Maybe you can find that at the philescott.com, and please come along. We've got some great ones, the one in England, the one in Spain. Have a look at the event page. It's amazing speakers, and let's all meet up, and have it's so nice to actually meet up. I mean, hugging is one of the ancestral disconnects, that they
Yes.
try and take away from us, and this is really nice too. So come along to live
Absolutely.
events and support all the other channels, support Selina's channel, and James has got this channel here too. Please, I'm going to have to put the link up to that as well.
We're just throwing links out everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool.
Agreed.
Well, nice to meet you, Phil. I definitely heard your story over the years, so pleasure to engage with you here, and then hopefully see you in person soon, sometime.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you,
Awesome.
guys.
All right. Well, for everyone watching, thank you so much for hanging in there and listening to us jabber on. And until next time.